Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Tobian. Let me retell for you the plot of the book. Vasily Golovachev, *The Shadow of Lucifer's Wing*. Peak 1 Newcomer Chapter 4. Takeda always began his mornings with exercise. He knew countless combinations for warm-ups, yet he was constantly inventing new ones in his quest for perfection. He had won many awards in martial arts, including championship titles, but he never saw martial arts as his life's main goal. Far more, he was drawn to the philosophies of ancient civilizations and the very process of knowledge and understanding. He continually refined himself, spiritually, intellectually. No wonder, then, that when he turned 30, he was approached by a messenger of the cathedral soul of the fan of worlds. He was offered the role of observer, tasked with monitoring the world's changes, and was initiated into the complex structure of the cosmos, a cosmos in which Earth was but one among countless, far more fantastic realms. Takeda reflected on how fortunate they were that Nikita had appeared in the park. If not for him, the Herald would have been lost, and the mission would have failed completely. The mission of the messenger and the Herald, both murdered by agents of the SS, the Satan's Suite, executors of the Synclite of Four. But what next? Nikita was clearly not made for the path of a messenger. Though, who could say? One's inner strength could be forged, and abilities acquired. Nick had the most important thing, the desire to reach ultimate excellence in his craft, even if that craft was merely dance. After breakfast, Takeda sat down at his computer and resumed correspondence with the system. Once again, he was convinced that society was on a downhill slope. The tendency toward degradation was slow but steady in all areas. And he wasn't the only one observing this. Many other eyes, some of them non-human, were watching the world. And many of them weren't just observing, they were acting. When the engineer asked about his friend Nikita, the computer replied that the situation was under control, from two directions, no less. A gradual descent was expected, with a negative outcome estimated at just 1 in 5. This news suited Takeda just fine. He himself had noticed someone was watching over Sukhof, offering backup besides himself. The strangers who helped Nikita in fights, arriving even faster than Tolya or the police, these were no coincidences. Takeda tracked the dancer's current location. After all, microtransmitters had been sewn into Nikita's clothing, tiny, invisible pins that allowed the system to monitor him and send alerts in case of danger. Satisfied that all was in order, the engineer began getting ready for work. He scanned the room, checking that everything was in place. Everything seemed normal, except the mirror. The mirror. It reflected the whole room, everything, except for its owner. Without a second thought, Takeda leapt for his nunchaku. He performed 2 protective circles around himself and slowly approached the mirror. His instincts flared again. When the mirror spat a sharp shard at him, he deflected it midair with the nunchaku. Then he struck the mirror, shattering it instantly into dozens of large fragments. Takeda stood above the shards, troubled. They'd found him. But how? Who tipped them off? Or was it the same psychic intelligence unit, the Satan's Suite, leaving a seal of evil? And such a seal affects not only its primary target, but everyone nearby. That meant friends, relatives, acquaintances. Takeda and Ksenia included. The doorbell rang. It was Sukhof, his face bandaged with a plaster. He glanced at the shattered glass and asked what had happened. Takeda didn't answer directly. It was too soon for his friend to know about such things. Sukhof gave him a lift to work. Tolya asked if the star was bothering him. "What is it, anyway? Are you ever going to tell me?" asked the dancer. "A signal buried in noise," Takeda replied. "The herald. One day it will awaken, reveal itself. Until then, endure it, and tell no one about it. Actually, you know what? Take Xenia and go south for a couple of weeks. I think, 1,000 kilometers from here, the seal will lose its power. I can't keep guarding you two forever." And with that, they parted ways. But the surprises continued. Sukhof received a summons to the police. Failure to appear would result in a fine. Though the amount was small, Nikita decided to comply. He was a law-abiding citizen. At 2:40, he arrived and entered the necessary office. They requested his documents. Then, rifling through paperwork, the officer read out the charges: disorderly conduct, a fight in the underpass, a traffic collision, and another fight at the scene. A whole list. He was threatened with 2 articles and a potential sentence of 3 to 5 years. Nikita was stunned. At first, he could only mumble, "But it wasn't me. I don't understand. I did nothing wrong." Then the officer shouted at him, accusing him of being just another troublemaker dancer, living a reckless life. But then Sukhof shouted back, slamming his hand on the desk. He said the officer knew nothing and that he was innocent. Strangely, this calmed the officer, who then said some details needed clarification. From then on, the tone shifted. No more shouting. He was warned once more, any repeat incidents would lead to harsher consequences. But in the end, they let him go. Oddly enough, Sukhof had always heard that getting into police trouble was easy, but getting out, not so much. He sensed something was off. Was this another manifestation of the seal of evil? His thoughts were soon diverted. He was heading to see Xenia. Half an hour later, he was at her place. She was working on a painting, so he wandered the room, watching her, admiring her, as he always did. At one point, she asked how long he intended to sit there staring. He gathered his courage, stood, and kissed her. The kiss lasted nearly a minute. When he pulled back, she was looking at him with uncertainty again. He changed the subject and began complaining. Strange things kept happening. Murky events he couldn't understand or control. And then there was the herald. "Does it hurt?" "Bother you?" asked Xenia. "Not really. But it's annoying. Gets on my nerves. Especially if I touch it." He touched the star again. It had slid down nearly to his elbow. Once more, he felt the familiar jolt, electric or icy. A hum filled his skull, echoing through his bones. A strange phrase in an incomprehensible tongue echoed in his mind, then silence. Only weakness and a ringing in his head remained. She jumped up, concerned, brought him coffee, placed one hand on his forehead, the other on his nape, and told him to sit still and think of something pleasant. Soon, the discomfort faded. "Did Tolya tell you how this thing appeared?" he asked. "He did." "And what do you think of it?" "Nick, you've been caught in the wheel of history. This is serious. Much will depend on you now, maybe everything. In time, if you choose, it will all become clear. But there's no going back to the life you knew. You're in danger. So you know more than I do, too. Only what I've told you. You have to walk the path. Or rather, 3 of them. 3 whole paths." "What kind?" "The path of the sword, the path of thought, and the path of spirit. If only you have courage, magnanimity. Hearing that he apparently lacked magnanimity, Nikita stood and silently left the studio. He felt hurt, though he wasn't sure why. His mind now clung to those paths. He wasn't planning to go anywhere. And yet, the path of the sword, the path of thought, the path of spirit, it sounded so alluring, whatever it truly meant.